Former Southampton goalkeeper coach, Andrew Sparks. Thanks for coming on, mate.
Then you think about it, actually 4 seasons in the Premier League. Yeah, actually it's not too bad. I think when you start on a journey, whether you're a player or a coach, and you start kind of relatively towards the bottom, you never really know how far it can take you. Randomly, I got a LinkedIn message from Orlando Pirates, South Africa. They said Orlando Pirates is one of the biggest clubs in Africa. So I went, yeah, let's go.
Let's do goalie or no goalie, right?
Oh, here we go. I remember I still got the text from Ralph saying, hi, it's Ralph Hasenhüttl, Southampton manager. But when you get an opportunity in the Premier League, you have to take it. And for me, it's about trying to coach them for who they are in terms of their style of goalkeepers, and not saying, well, I all want you to be the same. See the grooves there, outlined it in the black pen, and I was like, actually, that looks all right.
Right, I'm going to put you on the spot for this last one, right? Best goalkeeper you've worked with?
You're literally like a manager of a small team.
Yep.
Not just a goalkeeper coach.
What a save from Mark Howard.
Huge shout out to Forged Irish Stout for being part of this podcast. Listen to that beauty. An unbelievably smooth, creamy stout by Conor McGregor, the UFC legend. Not here to take part, but here to take over. Forged Irish Stout is on a mission to become the biggest Irish stout. Conor McGregor has taken over the whiskey game. Now he's about to take over the stout game. Me and my guests will be enjoying a few cans in the next few episodes. If you fancy checking it out too, make sure you hit the description below and find out where you can get Forged Irish Stout. Forged Irish Stout will be available in Asda nationwide come August. Let's get back to the podcast. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Yours Mine Away podcast with me, Mark Howard. Today I'm joined by an amazing guest. I'm very excited to have him on. Former Southampton goalkeeper coach, Andrew Sparks. Thanks for coming on, mate.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No, I'm obviously delighted to get you on. You've worked with a very high calibre of goalkeepers and stuff that we'll definitely get into. But firstly, obviously you're out of work at the moment. You've got a slight injury as well, but I want to talk about a little bit about the insecurities of being a coach, a manager, of like, you never know when your job's going to come to an end, or you never know when your next opportunity is going to come about.
Yeah, it's I had 4 fantastic years at Southampton, and I guess with the job comes that insecurity at times. So yeah, new manager comes in, brings his own goalkeeper coach, and unfortunately this time, have to move on. There's other times when managers have come in and stuck with the same goalkeeper coach. So, for me, it always depends on the new manager coming in, if he's got his own staff. So sometimes you can last, a good chunk, like 4 years. Sometimes it can be 4 months when there's a changeover, and, it can be nothing down to your ability, but just the circumstances in, the new manager wants to bring his own goalkeeper coach in who he trusts and work with, which I think you completely understand as well. So, just in this case, it hasn't worked out. But in the case of Southampton, Ralph Hasenhüttl brought me in, who knew me from the Red Bull model. So I kind of benefited on that side to come in the first place. So it can work both ways. But as I said, at this point, unfortunately, it didn't work my way.
Yeah, obviously a lot of like my listeners and the listeners around the world and stuff, they don't actually understand like the day-to-day of like 2 or 3 bad results and your head's almost on the chopping line and stuff. But then it goes on the flip side of that as well. If you do 2 or 3 like good results, good performances, your manager's getting linked and you're thinking, I could end up going with him wherever he ends up going. Football in general is such a short career, and to establish yourself at one club, it's just not really a thing anymore, is it? It's changing the way that the game is.
Yeah, I think obviously when I've come out of a job, people have said, you've done, really well to be in the Premier League for 4 seasons. And when you're in it, you don't think about it. But when you've come out of it, you think, actually, 4 years. Some people, maybe get one opportunity, it lasts 3 months or 6 months or 9 months, 2 seasons. But then you think about it, actually 4 seasons in the Premier League. Yeah, actually, it's not too bad.
No, it's very good. As well, I'm going to mention your age here, that you're 37 now, 38? 38, so 4 years ago, 34 years old, coaching in the Premier League, coaching Premier League goalkeepers is an incredible achievement, considering I'm 36 and I'm still playing. But to say that you went into coaching 14, 15 years ago and your progression's been pretty quick around the world anyway.
Yeah. I think when you start on a journey, whether you're a player or a coach, and you start kind of relatively towards the bottom, you never really know how far it can take you. And then, I think everyone wants to be a Premier League footballer when you're growing up, or play for England or Wales or whoever. And for me, didn't have the playing career. So, my focus was to try and be the best coach I could be, and kind of went quite quickly and ended up with some really good roles around the world. And to make it into the Premier League at 34, it was, I think it's what you dream of, and then it happens, and you're in it. And 4 years later, you can say you've worked 4 years in the Premier League. It's some achievement.
It's a massive achievement, fair play.
But then it's, once you're there, you want to stay there. And I think when you come out of it, you actually don't really appreciate what you had when you were there. So, for me, it's now about looking for the next opportunity. Try and work in the highest level possible. But at the same time, it's not as easy as just going, I'll just jump back in the Premier League or jump back in the Championship or League One. It's there's some really good goalkeeper coaches out there, and there's also goalkeeper coaches who are attached to managers, as we just talked about. So there might be an opening, but then new manager goes in, takes goalkeeper coach with him. So it's difficult, but hopefully sooner rather than later.
One of the things that I've always wondered about being a goalkeeper coach, is it better to be attached to a manager, or would it be better to just solely work for the goalkeeping department of a football club? And I always think that a goalkeeper coach should always have the best interest of the goalies at heart, and therefore it should almost be the club's decision, and he should work for the club. But obviously, like you said, some managers don't trust that situation and they want to bring their own man in. So it's a catch-22. It's a very difficult line to cross.
Yeah, I think if you go with a manager, and it's, say, a top manager, you can almost go to some really good clubs and work at the highest level if you're going with a top manager. But there's other times when a manager might be out of work, but he's okay because he's had probably a nice little payoff. But from the backroom staff, that it's not the same. It's not the same. So you could probably survive for a little bit. Where a manager could probably have 2-3 years out the game, but then the backroom staff, we have mortgages to pay and the rest of it. So it can, as I said, it can work both ways, different circumstances. If you work with a manager, you've kind of got security that it might be a few more months. But if you work with a club, as we've had this year, we had two. Ralph brought me in, and there was two other coaches who then I stuck with. So, as I said, it works both ways.
It does, right? So I've got a couple of quick fire questions for you, just to break the ice a little bit, right? So, do you have a favourite goalkeeper kit colour?
Like yellow.
Yellow, yeah. Like a luminous yellow, like a proper fluorescent one, or a traditional yellow?
Yeah, traditional yellow.
Nice, yeah. All right, play out from the back or kick it long?
Play out from the back.
Nice. Right, favourite ever goalkeeper?
Peter Schmeichel.
Yeah, hands down.
Yeah, I think he was, when Man United were dominant in the 90s, he was the go-to. He was, I think you ask anyone kind of my age group, Peter Schmeichel.
Yeah. I think there was two. I think it was obviously David Seaman. You was either a David Seaman camp or you was a Peter Schmeichel camp. And obviously I came through at Arsenal and that. So I was always like, Dave Seaman. But then, I love watching clips now of what Peter Schmeichel did. Yeah,
and I think when you talk about Peter Schmeichel and the clips, it's only when you look back now, and probably more so as a coach, you realise that he was so unorthodox.
It's bizarre, isn't it?
And some of the things he did that you'd never coach or whatever, but he was just so effective. And I think it's just the presence. I've met him a few times, and the presence is like
big, imposing guy.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, massively. But as you said, like David Seaman going through, obviously from Wales, but Wales never qualified in those days, so it was almost you're looking out for England. So David Seaman was kind of on the international stage, was the goalkeeper I used to look out for.
Who would have been the Wales goal at the time? Jonah? Paul Jones?
Yeah, he was.
It would have been back end of Nev, wouldn't it?
Back end of Nev, and then, Paul Jones. Mark Crossley.
Yeah, Mark Crossley. Wow, what a left foot he had on him, by the way.
Who else? And obviously Wayne Hennessy started to come through, and Wayne's obviously been there for a while now.
Yeah, right. Match of the day or Sky Sports News?
Match of day. We didn't have Sky as a kid.
Yeah, nice. Long sleeve shirts or short sleeve shirts?
Keep it traditional, long sleeve.
Yeah, I like the traditional element. You mentioned already about your white gloves and the yellow jersey. I like it. Best goalkeeper in the world right now?
Tough one. I like Alisson.
Yep, I agree. I think Alisson has everything in the locker.
Yeah.
Where I think that you look at the Courtois, unbelievable shot stopper. Is he as good at doing all the other things that Alisson? And obviously Ederson's distribution's a joke, but I think Alisson's got a bit of everything.
I think all round he's...
Yeah, the most complete.
Yeah.
Right, as a goalie coach, right, this would be a good one because I normally ask my guests this, but head tennis or goalie wars?
Head tennis.
Head tennis. Goalkeeper coaches hate goalie wars. Do you play goalie? Did you play goalie wars?
As a kid, loved it.
Yeah.
But
as a coach, why don't you do it enough?
I don't. It's a good question, actually.
It's competitive.
Yeah.
You're working on striking the ball as hard as you can to beat the other. It's and it's shots that are unorthodox. I think it's one of the best drills for a goalkeeper because it's the pure reactive element of you don't know what's coming.
Maybe that's because of that.
Yeah. Also for injuries.
Yeah, exactly. So-and-so's broke his finger. How do you do that? Yeah, we're playing goalie wars.
Yeah, true.
I think sometimes it's a perception of, or when the gaffer looks over and you've got two goals and they're spanking balls at each other,
true.
you're like,
One of them's got a tight thigh, the other one's got a broken finger.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't look great.
So maybe that's why I play it a little cautious.
Right, I'm going to put you on the spot for this last one, right? Best goalkeeper you've worked with? You don't have to answer it. I'm just going to put you on the spot.
They're all good in their different ways.
Obviously we talked about this before, that every goalkeeper is so different, and it's hard to pinpoint exactly which goalkeeper is the best at certain attributes. And I think that's what makes us all so special, is that you don't have to be amazing at one thing, but if you can collectively put everything together, like an Alisson, he puts everything together. He's not... I couldn't tell you, apart from his one-on-one shot stopping, I don't think he's unbelievable at one thing. I think he's just collectively. Van der Sar was the same.
Yeah, I think with goalkeepers, there's always different levels, whether one's better at crossing or shot stopping or distribution. But I think that's sometimes the nice part about it, where you want to develop, and that's what you do as a coach. You identify areas where you want to really develop, maybe a part they can improve, but also if they're really good at something, I also like to keep trying to push them into that and make it almost like a super strength.
Superpower,
Yeah, so each goalkeeper is different, and work with different characters and different profiles and things like that, but they all pose you different challenges, which is part of the fun and part of the journey.
Yeah. Right, so I want to go back to the start then. From obviously you would have played in goal as a kid and stuff like that, but why goalkeeping? What was it? What attracted you to playing in goal?
I literally was the fat kid.
Was you really? Looking at you now, you wouldn't tell that.
I got a photo, but it's So I started off, I think, under 8, and I was like centre midfield and won like player of the year for the local team. And I think it was the first year mini football came in. So before 8s, I think we were playing always in the big goals, and they brought in like the new formats. Somehow I ended up in goal, and I think because I ended up in goal, just literally standing in the goal frame, didn't run or anything, and then literally became the fat goalie, I guess. And then just stuck there, and kind of played schoolboys and all those kinds of things, and actually enjoyed it. I think back then just getting muddy and diving around and those types of things, and I think role models started to come in, and Peter Schmeichel, David Seaman. So then you kind of start to enjoy it, and then you're good at something, and then you kind of climb up the ladder a little bit, and I guess that's kind of the early days of that, really. It's
always like you get a few, when you first go in goal, and you get a few plaudits off your mates or off your parents and that, and they give you that little pat on the back. You're like, I really want to do this. This is good, because for me, going and playing right back for a team, and no one really talks about whether it's good or bad, I'm like, a bit boring that. But being in goal, you was always the one that everyone was, especially as a kid now, coming through it. Goalkeeping's really tough, and I think it's getting highlighted more and more over the years. But when you're young, people don't realise the growth spurts that you go through. Your body's changing. You're not as strong as you should be. Like, you can't kick the ball out of your own goal area, let alone have it. Like, distribute the ball properly. So all these things when you're 8 to 12-year-old are so hard.
Yeah, and I think sometimes when you're in that age group, and I've worked in academies, and the age group coaches there literally think you can do everything. Oh, why can't he side volley? Or he should be punching that. Or no, mate, he's 7, 8 years old.
Stop the ball. That's about as good as it's going to get. Yeah.
So I think there's this pressure on those kids even at that age, because I guess coaches see stuff on the TV and think, oh, why is little Johnny's not being able to do that? But we know obviously there's you get some pros who can't even do it, but the younger coaches obviously want their players to do it all, don't they?
Right, I want to talk about your own playing career then. You said that you played like schoolboys and stuff. Did you ever get scouted for teams, and did you go into like academy systems?
So I was kind of like a little bit late on that. So I played like Swansea schoolboys and stuff, and didn't go into an academy till later, where I was playing like Welsh Premier stuff 16, 17, and then Swansea needed a training goalkeeper with their under-19s at the time. They had obviously 3 years YT, but Swansea Division 2 literally had no money. But I said, I'll come in and train. So I ended up training with them for like 2 years. And at that point, it was a small youth team, like 10, 12 players, and the first team would be on the next pitch. So I ended up training, obviously, with the first team quite often. And then my games were with playing in the Welsh Premier. So they couldn't pay me. So then they said, actually, can you do some coaching in the Centre of Excellence at the time? So my money kind of came from the Centre of Excellence in the night. So I trained in the morning, coaching in the night, and that's how the kind of coaching evolved. But I still hand in with the playing, and Saturdays playing in the Welsh Premier. So that was kind of my journey. And then I started to get into the coaching, and the playing that kind of took a bit of a backseat, and I ended up going to America quite early when I was 20. So that was when I almost had to give up playing, and then it kind of just snowballed really quickly from there. So, very mediocre playing career. But
do you reckon that was maybe because of the opportunities in Wales, that's near Swansea, would have been a lot more limited than if you lived near a London team? That obviously there's so many more teams, so many more academies you could have went to, but living in Swansea, like you said, there's only Swansea. Cardiff are the massive rivals, and then there's like obviously the Welsh teams, and the academy systems just aren't in place there to what the level of England are.
I think first and foremost, I probably wasn't good enough. That's probably the main thing. But as you said, like when you're in Wales, you almost go Swansea, Cardiff. If you don't make those, you almost go Welsh leagues. Yeah. And there's so many players in the Welsh leagues who have played for Swansea and Cardiff. Yeah. As you said, it's not like London, where if you drop down from professional team, you can go into like non-league. But in Wales, it's literally Swansea, Cardiff into the Welsh leagues, and sometimes lower than that. So opportunities aren't as fruitful as
I was
as
at
here.
Cardiff at 19, in and about the first team, and all the lads that were coming through, every single one of them that got released, it was like straight away they went to like a Welsh team. Yeah. And like it was almost like that was a given for them, where like the English players that had come over and played for Cardiff at 18, 19, we all just was straight away, no, we're going back to England to get into a proper academy again and get back through the system again. There's two complete switches in mindsets.
I think if you think about, going back to kind of my age group, not many players came out of Wales into English clubs. Yeah. And they used to say, even before my time, that like Welsh players used to get homesick quite often. And I don't know whether it was kind of like the comfort of home in Wales and being from small towns and stuff. But obviously now Wales evolved a little bit more, and you're getting players moving at young ages now. But not many players kind of, and it's the same when I went to America as a coach. It was, you're going to America, but you're from Wales, shouldn't you be staying in Wales? But it's sometimes it's opportunities, and sometimes it's maybe a little bit of a mindset as well. Yeah,
right. Before we get on to then your coaching and getting across the planet then, around the world, let's do goalie or no goalie, right?
Oh, here we go.
For those that don't know, Andrew's been texting me asking me not to make it too difficult for him and trying to learn up a little bit of knowledge. But I think you know the script now. It's more of a trick than it is about knowledge, right? So I've got 5 goalkeepers, international goalkeepers from around the world, and 5 random names. You know the script, yeah? 1 point for each answer.
I said I'll just answer
Goalie for everyone.
So I don't,
Imagine if I've put in 10 no goalies. I can't do that.
You might,
I can't do that. Right, you ready?
Yeah.
Right, number 1, Stol Dimitrievski.
No goalie.
He is a goalie for North Macedonia and Vallecano. Bad start. Come on, Andrew.
Bad start.
Right, number 2, Hung Fei Yap.
No goalie.
Goalkeeper for Hong Kong and Eastern AA.
Not a bad start, that is it?
It's a terrible start. 0 for 2. You got to get this one now, right? Number 3, Jose Riviero.
No goalie.
He is not a goalkeeper. He is the current manager for one of your former teams, Orlando Pirates.
I thought I recognised the name.
Yeah, right. You're on 1 now. You're off the mark. Let's go. Right, number 4, Bryn West.
No goalie.
Why do you know that? You recognise the name, didn't you? It's Rob Brydon's character from Gavin and Stacey.
There you go.
All of your answers here, by the way, have got a little tie to one of your previous clubs.
I can see the theme here.
Yeah. Right. Number 5, Carlos Lampe.
Have you said it right?
Carlos Lampe. I'm saying that. Let's go with that.
No goalie.
He is a goalkeeper. He is Bolivia and Bolivar goalkeeper.
Good old Carlos there.
Yeah. Right, 2 out of 5. Come on, you can do better than this. I think this one you'll get anyway. Right, number 6, Wolfgang Mozart.
No goalie.
He is not a goalkeeper. It's obviously one of the greatest composer from Salzburg.
There you go.
Another tie to one of your previous teams. Right, number 7, Ali Law.
Ali Law. No goalie.
He is not a goalkeeper. He is a famous YouTuber from Southampton.
Perfect. Is that 4?
I think you're up to 4 now, yes.
Just a little slow on that.
Yeah, just making sure you're on it. Right, number 8, Kevin Jean Louis.
Kevin John Louis.
Gets you thinking, doesn't it?
He sounds like a goalie.
They all sound like goalies. That's the whole point. What you're saying.
Goalie.
He is a goalkeeper. He is the Mauritius and Pamplemousse goalkeeper. Big Kevin John Louis, great name that.
Yeah.
Right, number 9, Ricardo Jerez.
No goalie.
He is a goalkeeper for Guatemala and, listen to this for a team, Chattanooga Red Wolves.
Oh, right.
Chattanooga Red Wolves. What a name that is. Right, finally, number 10, you're on 5. You can get 6, come on.
Yeah.
Number 6, Dietrich Matschitz. My pronunciation is terrible.
Dietrich
Matschitz.
No goalie.
He is not a goalkeeper. He's the co-founder of Red Bull.
Correct.
Obviously, another link to one of your former teams. I had to put a few links into your former teams. 6 out of 10. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, that's solid.
Solid. It's not an easy quiz. It's not meant to be easy.
It's not.
No.
Yeah.
Just chucking 10 random names at you.
You should do it one time. Just kind of either put all goalies or...
I should do. I should throw people off. That would be a really good way. Right. I want to crack on with some of your coaching. Like we said, you've been all around the world and stuff. Obviously, you started off at Swansea, like we said. But how did the opportunity come about to go over to New York Red Bulls?
So I was coaching in the Centre of Excellence at Swansea, as I said, Division 2 at the time. So just by chance, one of the office staff, her nephew worked in New York. And they were like, oh, we need a coach to come over and do some coaching. So I was like, all right.
What an opportunity at your age. That you
yeah, so originally I think it was for like 6 weeks. So I was like, yeah, well, I'll go, I'll do it. And you got to think back at the time then, full-time academy jobs were very scarce. And it was only kind of like the top teams who had full-time goalkeeper coaches or coaches in general. I think Swansea at the time just had a full-time head of academy. Everyone else was part-time. So I went to New York, and it was at the time where Red Bull just bought out Metro Stars, the New York Metro Stars. So where Tim Howard used to play. So Red Bull kind of bought that. And so I worked in their like youth programs, development programs for probably 2 years. And then I set up their like goalkeeper satellite centres, like you have for all the clubs here. So then I was pushing goalkeepers through into the academy, quite a few of them, and the academy goalkeeper coach left then to be a first team at Columbus. So they had no academy goalkeeper coach. So I literally said, look, I'll do it. So I did it, I think, for a short period of time just to see how I liked it. They liked me. And yeah, they just said, oh, do you want to go full time? So I was head of academy goalkeeping at the Red Bulls. I think I was 23, 24.
Again, that's a huge achievement at your age to have moved internationally and then to step up that quickly.
And like I almost had to build a program, and I didn't really have a load of experience of leading a program. It was kind of learn on the go. But then started to produce a lot of goalkeepers for the national team. I think we had 4 goalkeepers who they had a residency program in Florida who would go down and live in Florida for the under-17 national team in preparation for World Cups. So within, I think, 2 or 3 cycles, I had 4 keepers in the residency program, so they'd go and live there. So I had quite a lot of success in that short period. And then, as I said, Red Bull bought New York Red Bulls. They had a team in Salzburg, one in Ghana, one in Brazil. Leipzig wasn't even going at that point.
Yeah.
So they had I had a global goalkeeping, Hans Leitert, who used to be at Spurs and he works for FIFA now. And his job was to kind of bring together all the goalkeeper coaches and have the same philosophy. So he came over to New York for a week just to see how he's doing things, and he's like, your work's really good.
Yeah.
So then a week after he left, the academy manager pulls me in. He said, I'll close the door. So I sat down and he said, I've just got an email of Hans. And I'm like, okay, where's this going?
One of 2 ways, yeah.
So he goes, he was really impressed. He wants you to go to Red Bull Salzburg. I was like, what do you mean? He said he wants you to go there to basically work next to him. He wants to develop you even further. What do you think? And I was like, yeah, I'll go. So I think it took maybe 2 months for it all to go through.
Had you already done all your badges?
I think I was on my B license.
Yeah.
I think they were already ticked off by 19, I think. So, yeah, for me then to go, so I'd obviously come from Europe, gone to America, had like 4 years there, and then to go to kind of like, that was the main Red Bull club at the time. So go there, and being a British coach in Europe, even now there's not many, working in academies especially, I thought, yeah, why not? It's an unbelievable opportunity. So I went there, and it was the best year that I had. And I could have stayed there for 3 years. Foolishly, I'm not sure. After a year, I said, I want to go back to New York. And I think I was 25 when I went to Salzburg. So I'd just come from New York when I was 24. And yeah, the whole kind of lifestyle from New York to Salzburg is literally chalk and cheese. Shops in Salzburg didn't open on Sundays, when New York, 24 hours. Yeah. All my friends were in New York. So at that point in my career, I said, I'll go back to New York.
Did that also feel like, because you was building something at New York, that you had almost started and took it through?
Yeah. But then, looking back now, I probably should have stayed. Because Salzburg, they play Champions stuff and huge team. But I think at the time it was kind of, maybe a little bit of immaturity from that standpoint. And when I went back to New York, they said, oh, you'll do the reserve team and stuff like that. So probably should have stayed, but I didn't. But then that kind of adds to the journey, I think, of decision making down the road. Sometimes the grass isn't always greener.
Of course, yeah.
Had 1 year at Salzburg, and then went back to New York for I think 10 months, and then my goalie coach at Swansea. So when I was training with the youth team and the first team, Tony Pennick was the academy manager at Swansea. So he calls me up and he's like, we're going for category 2, I think, for the EPPP audit. We need a head of academy goalkeeping. Do you want to come back? I'm like, yes. So if you think like the start of the journey, I was part-time with Swansea. They didn't have any full-time except for the head of youth.
Yeah.
And then I think it was maybe 8 years later, the club's developed. Now they were in the Premier League, Swansea boy, and they've asked me to come back as head of academy goalkeeping. And it's like,
Massive honour that.
yeah, massive. So he's like, I said, yeah, when shall I start? It's like 2 weeks. So I'm like, yeah, but I've got an apartment and car and stuff in New York. And I actually took a pay cut to go back to Swansea. But for me, it was about the opportunity. So, yeah, I went back to New York to kind of implement everything I learned in Salzburg back to New York. But then obviously a Premier League club, hometown team,
Yep.
into a role probably if you had asked me when I was 18, 19, would you have loved it? Then
Yeah.
absolutely. So yeah, I ended up going back to Swansea and was head of academy goalkeeping there for 6 years.
Yep.
So yeah, it was kind of like a little bit of a roundabout to come back to Swansea,
Yeah.
which was nice. And yeah, again, looking to develop a program. So when I went into Swansea, I had those years of experience from Red Bull to build a project, which obviously now is a Premier League team and ultimately got category 1. So yeah, all different experiences to get me back to Swansea, 6 years there. And then it was the first team got relegated in the summer, and I was doing a conference in America. Randomly, I wasn't looking to leave. Randomly, I got a LinkedIn message from Orlando Pirates, South Africa,
Amazing, yeah.
saying we're looking for a first-team goalkeeper coach. We're playing in the African Champions League because they finished second the year before. Would you be interested? So at this point, I'd been in like youth football, academy football for about 12 years. And I always wanted to go into a first team. So I had, when I was at Swansea, I had Adrian Tucker as first team keeper coach now, England, Javi Garcia, who's at Aston Villa now,
Yep.
and Tony Roberts. So all three of them were really good for my development. I used to say, I'll come in and help out with serving. And so you had a little bit of a feel for a first team.
Yep.
So I always wanted to try and push into there. But then I had an offer from South Africa. So it was okay, well, do you go literally outside your comfort zone or do you stay at Swansea?
You clearly don't mind taking risk. And,
yeah, it was a little risk, but...
and you look forward to an opportunity of doing something for yourself. And
yeah, and I think sometimes people stay quite comfortable.
Yep.
But we had been in South Africa for 3 weeks, 2 years previous to that, with the under-19s for a tournament. So imagine the Swansea boys going to South Africa for a tournament because one of our owners was from South Africa. So while I was there, you could see understand the country, the culture, and the league. Majority of the games were played in the World Cup stadiums from 2010. So I had an idea of what I was going into. Then obviously researched the league, asked some questions, and spoke to some people in South Africa who I'd met before, and they said Orlando Pirates is one of the biggest clubs in Africa. So I went, let's go. And
let's have a go.
What an unbelievable year for experiences. It was, culturally just so different. But again, it's part of the journey, which makes my experiences, that much bigger.
It must have been like two jobs, obviously, like what you're saying, like the culture and the lifestyle. Away from football, it must have been such a contrast from what you're used to. But then when you get back into work and coach the goalkeepers and you work with a football team, it must have been so amazing to be part of that experience that they were trying to build and stuff.
Yeah, the club Orlando Pirates, one of the biggest in Africa.
Yeah.
And the fan base is massive. And I wanted to experience first team, as I said. So it's not just the training session, it's everything that comes with it. It's the pressure of 3 points. It's stuff with the media. And when you're in South Africa, you get recognised. And if you win on the weekend, it's like, hey, coach, congratulations. If not, you get ignored, basically.
Yeah.
And so I lived in an apartment in a hotel, and every time we won, I'd go downstairs, and the guy from the coffee shop, Andrew, hey, coach, here's your coffee. When we lost,
just totally ignore you.
But that's how much it means to the people, and culturally a lot different to anything I've ever experienced before. And this, just the makeup of the country's quite complex as well. So you have to try and get your head around that, and working with different players from different backgrounds. Some had never had education, some had education, some have never left Africa. Some, it's hard to describe unless you're there.
Yeah.
But wonderful people. And as I said, we played African Champions League, so I went to places like Zambia, Namibia, Zimbabwe. Then we played a team in Morocco, Guinea, which I never even knew where it was. So and again, you go through Africa, and there's different parts of Africa have different levels of poverty as well.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just have to go to these places to understand that actually you don't have a bad life.
Yeah,
and
some eye-opening stuff along the way.
Yeah, you drive through places, and I was lucky to live in a really nice place in Johannesburg. But then literally across the road, you'd have people with literally nothing living in tin sheds and stuff like that. And it's quite humbling. And, there's people within the club who literally had nothing. So I'd always, the backroom staff and stuff, I'd always make sure, like in the airport, right, lads, what you want? Because I knew that they hardly got paid anything. I was on, a decent contract for going. And, for me, it was just trying to help out. And, I still send the guy from the coffee shop, I still send money every Christmas to him and his family because they don't have a lot. And I think it just opened that kind of human side to things as well. And that year, in terms of the football side, we lost the FA Cup on penalties, and we lost the league by a point or two. Oh. So it could have been a little bit different from that side, but experience.
Just an experience in itself.
Yeah, incredible. And people say South Africa, is it dangerous? It's no more dangerous than going to the worst part of wherever you're from in the UK. Yeah. But amazing people, amazing experiences, and it helps me even with Southampton when you have a lot of African players. Yeah. And I say, I worked in South Africa. Oh yeah, where? And played Champions League and maybe in their country. Yeah. And you can relate to them a little bit more. Of course,
100%.
And also little things that they do, you actually understand, where some other coaches might have a different view because they actually don't understand why they do certain things.
Culturally, why they do things and their habits.
Yeah, so, from that side, again, it's just for me, part of the journey of how to deal with different peoples from different cultures and backgrounds and things like that.
I think you've brushed over a job with Sierra Leone as well, haven't you?
Yeah, so that was when I first went back to Swansea. One of the coaches I was with in New York, Johnny McKinstry, he got a job with the national team in Sierra Leone. So he asked me just to come and help out. It was only for a game or two. And that was probably my first experience of Africa. And I was doing that alongside Swansea. So nothing more from that came out really. Yeah. But again, just another experience along the way. And one that you think kind of builds to your journey.
So from all of that, all the travelling around the world and everything that you've learned, you then got the opportunity at Southampton, which getting that phone call must have been huge.
Yeah, it's a little bit surreal because I remember I still got the text from Ralph saying, "Hi, it's Ralph Hasenhüttl, Southampton manager."
Surely you've printed that and put that in a frame.
Yeah, it's on my screenshots. And I'm like, it's hard to kind of... I'm actually in South Africa at this point. Yeah. And the link came through. So he wanted basically a goalkeeper coach who understood the Red Bull system, who was British. And there's only basically one that's done it. So he said, "Are you available to talk?" So I said, yeah. So I spoke to him on the phone. He's like, "Oh, can you present to me on your philosophy and things?" So I was like, "Yeah, fine." Thinking he'd say, "Oh, next week." This call was 8:00 at night. And he goes, "How about 10:00 tomorrow morning?"
Wow.
And I'm like,
yeah.
I said, "Yeah, fine." bear in mind, this is probably the biggest opportunity and probably a life-changing opportunity. So I said, well, yeah, because if you delay it anymore, then you might say, oh,
Might
well,
pass you by.
yeah, exactly.
Of course, you've got to take these opportunities.
So I
when they come
remember
along.
being in my apartment going, okay. So I sat down. I literally worked all through the night. I had a little bit of sleep, I think, between like 4 and 6 a.m. But I was just so like wide adrenaline, just trying to get this presentation done. And I remember my missus bought me breakfast and stuff just before she's going to work. And I can't remember eating it or seeing her, just because I was in the zone, because I need to get it done. So 10 o'clock came. I was in a conference room in the hotel, and I had the analyst from Pirates. He's the only one I told that there's an opportunity. So anyway, did the interview, and with Ralph, and he's quite impressed. So anyway, literally put the phone down, and I was just gone.
Yeah, I bet shattered.
Just exhausted. It was just that 12 hours I don't even remember. But then I remember speaking to the chairman of Southampton, and he's like, oh, Ralph was really impressed. We want to offer you a contract, this, that, and the other. So I said, I'll come to Southampton. He said, no. But the same as what I just said, I didn't want them to have a change of heart.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you want to get it done, don't you?
So I literally flew from South Africa to London, met with the chairman, signed the chairman, and then flew back the same day. So I was in Southampton, I think, for 8 hours because I wanted to get it nailed down.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So I literally flew 24 hours for 8 hours in Southampton.
Did you have to...
Just to make it...
Concrete, done and dusted. So you went back to South Africa to presumably go and get your stuff?
Yeah, I had to get all my stuff.
Wow. That's a hell of a journey as well, that.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, as I said, amazing time in South Africa. There was tough times along the way.
Yep.
Like I think in any journey, there's always going to be things like you miss home and those types of things. But great club, really good people. And I still speak to some of their board and just wish them, Merry Christmas and all those things, because I think, they treated me so well out there. And but when you get an opportunity in the Premier League, you have to take it. And I think if you think about it, to take a coach from South Africa into the Premier League, it's a big thing. I don't think there's probably been anyone jump that bigger. No. Sometimes you go from academy into a first team, which is a big jump, but then.
That's a huge step. Yeah, no, obviously full credit to the presentation you must have put on and the learning that you've done around the world. Before we start getting into like the Southampton stuff, how does it compare coaching children to adults? Obviously, the levels are different, but does your approach to coaching change?
I think it's probably what I learned from when I was in South Africa. So when I was there, I was 32. One of the goalkeepers was 36, had 4 kids. And I think that's when you go into a first team, that's what you deal with. You deal with can't come to training, or I had a shit night. Can you swear?
Yeah, of course you can swear.
I had a shit night's sleep because the kids were up or the kids were ill. And it's how you deal with that side of it. It's an added layer of complexity on it. Where kids, they have their own stuff as well. They might have had a bad day at school. They might have exams. So I think ultimately you're trying to work and develop with players and goalkeepers at different stages in their lives where, there's loads of different things going on. When you get to the first team, you've got contracts, you've got, the performance of winning 3 points.
Yep.
Younger down, there's still pressure to get a contract for the next age group or the next one. So in terms of the way I deal with it is, need to try and develop them as people, young people, or when you're dealing with senior pros, is trying to keep them hungry enough to keep going. And then when it comes to the goalkeepers, you can still develop someone like Willie, who's 41, or an under 8-9 goalkeeper. So just trying to tap into how you can make them better in general, really. Yeah,
like managing the personalities, like you said, is hugely important, because all goalkeepers throughout their whole career will go through different pressures, like you're saying, contracts or dips in form and doing well and getting linked with big moves. It's about just keeping them humble and keeping them level, isn't it? And keeping them on the right path that you obviously as a coach would put in place, going like, this is the steps that we're trying to take along your career. This is where we want you to go. Is that so important to put those plans in place of like, this is the long-term goal. This is what we see you doing for us at this club.
Yeah, I think the difficulty becomes is you, from a goalkeeper style or a club style, you put the plans in place, but for whatever reason doesn't quite work out. Because academy players who could be like the best goalkeeper under 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, at 16 might physically not be the right profile for the club. Or, with the first team, they come in on a brand new signing and they don't develop the way the club wants them to develop and they have to move on. So there's always, I keep talking about journeys for players, for coaches. There's always ups and downs, and it's how you kind of react against the tough times, I think, defines you as a person and as a coach or as a player. And it's interesting how people react in different circumstances. But I think when it comes down to it, I always say, like, you have to be a good person. You have to work hard, enjoy what you do, and you'll find the level that you get to.
Yeah.
And whether that's a professional goalkeeper, if it's a non-league goalkeeper, whether it's Sunday league, whatever your level is, I think as coaches, you have to try and help them to get to whatever level they can get to.
Yeah, I always think as well with a goalkeeper coach, it's the enthusiasm that you bring to a session, that your goalkeepers become more vested in you as a person. And like, I'm quite a loud, outgoing person. As soon as I get a goalkeeper coach that matches that, I'm like, this is me. I'm really going to like benefit the whole session. It'll benefit myself. It'll benefit the coach. When you get to like every day you're going out and you're putting on a session, but you want your goalkeeper to get the most out of it, is it difficult to be like, you've got to be consistent as a person, haven't you?
Yeah, and that's one thing I've always tried to do, is try to put on a different session or a different spin to each session every day.
Yep.
When you've been at a club for 4 years,
it's difficult.
And I think Alex McCarthy's been the constant all throughout.
Yep.
To try and keep him motivated day in, day out. I try to think out of the box sometimes.
Yep.
But each session I try to do something a little bit different. So he's coming to train, go, what are we doing today? Just to keep his mind going as well. And I think that the biggest thing I learned from Willie Caballero coming in is he said competition, where sometimes I think maybe I was a little bit too like, right, this is what we're doing today, this is development, where Willie's like, I want competition. And we put, maybe it's like 3v1 or 4v1 boxes, and Willie's literally flying around the middle to get the ball, because he's like, we're competitors, we want to compete. And if it's winning the ball in the middle of a 3-1 or head tennis, or if it's winning on a Saturday, that's how we want to do it. So kind of I've changed a little bit of trying to put more competition in, or score lines, or losing team gets coffees or this or that. And for me, that's helped me as a coach, just from a conversation with Willie of what makes you tick? I want competition. Okay, we'll have it.
Yeah.
And the lads buzz off it then.
Is it so dealing with the different types of goalkeepers and putting on the same session, but for goalkeepers of all different abilities? That's obviously one of the things that I think a lot of people would struggle with, because like you're saying, you've got Willie, a 41-year-old guy, you had Gavin Bazunu that was a 21-year-old kid, to try and put on a session that's tailored for both to get stuff out of, but they're at different levels. Is that difficult, or is that something that you just adjust that session slightly, going, Willie, you leave this bit out, Gav, you need to do more here?
To be honest with Willie, he would never want to miss anything.
Yep.
But there's times where you coach them different, or the coaching points are different for each keeper.
Yep.
So you've got exactly the same session, what's going on, but someone might be further down the line of the ball. One keeper might look to stay further back. One might be more proactive on the front foot, where others will kind of stay back on the line. So, for me, it's about trying to coach them for who they are in terms of their style of goalkeepers, and not saying, right, I all want you to be the same, because they're not all the same. They all do different things, but in a framework for me, which fits into my philosophy and methodology. I think that's really important that, I'm not trying to say, right, you're all going to be like Gavin or Willie or Al or Fraser.
Yeah. Because no one can keep the ball out the same way as, say, like Fraser. Fraser's so big, Fraser Foster. He's so big, and the way he blocks the ball, no one else can really do it because no one's got his size. So you can't coach someone to be that goalie because that's the attributes that he has. But like you're saying, if you can make them a slightly bit more efficient at how they do that, and obviously Gav would have a lot more athleticism, and you teach him to be more efficient at moving his feet to get his dive in, generally you're both going to keep the ball out the net, but it's how you do it in your own style.
So for instance, with Alan Fraser, majority of the time would look to palm the ball away, and he was so effective. Like literally, he's so strong in like his arms. When it hit, and it would just fly miles.
Yep.
Where Al would look to catch probably majority of things.
Yep.
But they're both really effective in their own way. So it wasn't for me to say, right, Al, I want you to start deflecting like Fraser, or Fraser start catching with Al. There'd be times where I'd say, maybe it's an area it went into, or Al in that one, probably too much pace, maybe.
That's one to get rid of,
yeah. But not to say, right, you need to be like him, or vice versa. So, as I said, like Gav does totally different things to Willie, to Fraser, to Al. And it's about making them effective in their own profile, but at the same time, you're trying to educate them as well to, right, sometimes you need to do this. And I always do it with especially with the senior ones. Some like all the information broke down, right, what's my hand position, where others just want to make saves and more effective. So they'll put sessions on that is working on a specific thing for you, but you actually don't know you're working on it.
Yeah.
So I'll put them in scenarios where they have to make these types of saves or these types of actions, but without actually saying, right, we're getting you in this position, I want you to do this or that.
It then becomes muscle memory because you've trained them to do that. And on Saturday, you're trying to recreate something that could happen. And without them knowing it, you've already recreated it during the week. So it just becomes a habit of theirs.
Yeah, and it even goes down to like analysis before the game. So I will look at all the opposition strikers and put kind of trends of each striker. Do they run in behind? Do they have first time finishes? Do they hit from distance? So I'll create like a minute and a half video of all the opposition strikers. But I've had some keepers say, I don't want that. I just want to play it as is. But there's other keepers where they'll go, I want every single bit of information, shot maps, where the crosses come from. For me, there's no right or wrong way. But for me as the coach, I give them all the information and they can sift through it as they want.
Yep. See, for the ones that don't want that information, then, do you still try and sneak in training sessions? Yeah, of course you have to. This is obviously... You'll base your session around what you see it from the next opposition.
Yeah.
And then they won't even know that they're doing it. If they're doing reaction saves, it's because the team that they're playing against on Saturday scores a lot of cutbacks.
Yeah.
And you'll base everything around stuff like that.
So, for instance, you prepare for Man City.
Yep.
You know, a lot of their finishes are from centralised, from cutback situations. Yep. So from the start of the week, I know that I'm gearing up for those types of situations. So the start of the week will be more kind of the technical actions, maybe turn off the post, those types of things, and then build it into a bigger picture where we'll have maybe 3 or 4 keepers working. It could be a shot, could be a cutback, could be one where it's cut back, let through, and then it goes to the back post and they have to scramble over.
Yeah.
So those are the types of sessions that I like to do. And then the crossing for Man City's little half space cross, De Bruyne just kind of dinks it to the back,
feeds it into the gaps,
feeds it into the back post, and Haaland just like heads it or volleys it in. So I look to create those situations. So even if they don't per se like looking too much into the detail of each individual attacker, that they see the pictures in the week.
Yeah, of course.
And some triggers, like one of the big ones was Adama for Wolves. He'd get there on the top of the box, right on the wing. He'd take a massive touch, get right down to the byline, dink it in for Raul then to head it in. So like some of the triggers, like as soon as he takes that big touch and he's right on the byline, you can start to adjust back and out for that ball. So that's a part I really enjoy with the coaching, is kind of identifying areas of strength for the opposition.
But even like down to the warm-ups, but you know, like your work on in the warm-up, a bit of fast feet and a turnout.
Yeah.
Like, and people will just go, oh, it's just a standard warm-up. But it's not, because the thought process of you doing that is a turnout, a couple of fast feet to get that scramble across for that hung-up cross.
Yeah.
And like, even goalkeepers ourselves, we just go through the paces in a warm-up and we don't realise half the time that the coach has thought about this, because our turnout, 2 fast feet to then go into a dive, is because they're working on a cross to a diving header, and we wouldn't even think about it. I've done it a million times myself. I just go, oh, not this warm up again, and you're like, oh, it probably is structured for what we're doing on Saturday.
So, like, one of the big ones is crosses. So if it's like the Arsenal's Man City, we'll do cutback crosses in the warm up. If it's teams who we know from deep free kicks, we'll just shell it in the box.
If you're playing Burnley or
I'll adjust then the crossing zone. So again, they get the ideas from there. So yeah, I enjoy that type of kind of like analysing trying to pass in the information. As I said, some really want all the information, but I'll always do it full and then give it to them and say, look, take what you want, kind of thing. And it's the same for the attackers. So I always do ways to score against the opposition keeper.
Wow, yeah, you look into that depth,
Yeah, so it's could be one, I won't name the keeper, that when he spreads always goes to his right.
Yeah.
Always. So there's room over the left shoulder. Yeah. Or goes to ground early, leaves a near post open, not good on crosses. Yeah. So if we're doing set pieces, we know we can really load the front post up and put the keepers under pressure. So for me, that's a big part as well, is trying to, for me as a coach, not just keeper coaches, help the team to win. So as I said, if there's weaknesses in the opposition keeper, I'll put the video together. It goes on the iPads of the outfield players, and also the coaches, I'll give them the information. So when they're doing their finishing drills, they can do specific types of finishes or areas where we feel we can benefit.
Do you ever ask your goalkeepers in those drills to act like a certain goalkeeper? Like, especially the youth team ones that come up and join in.
Yeah.
Do you say, for instance, Hugo Lloris does this. Yeah. Can you try and recreate this sort of a pattern?
Yeah, so we've done it. It's more so with the youth players, where it's almost like, right, you have to earn your stripes a little bit in the first team environment. So we'll say so-and-so plays really, really high. Yeah. Or, looks to always defend one part of the goal. So we'll do that. Or goes down easily. So we try to pass that information. It is harder to say to like one of the pro keepers to do so. But then there's times where Willie, being Willie, will understand it's for the team. Yeah. So there's a few keepers in the Prem now leave loads of space on the near post for cutbacks because they want to protect more of the space. So Willie, being Willie, understands it's for the team. And on those crosses, we'll literally go on, try and squeeze it in the near post.
Cheat,
and Willie, at times, last season, went mental because the lads didn't get their head up and recognise there. Yep. So that's kind of, his mindset more so to help the team.
Game understanding from him.
And when he's like a number 3, I think you can do that knowing that you're probably not going to play the next day. To ask the number 2 to do that, it's not as easy because actually overnight something might happen. They might end up playing and the day before they've just been letting goals in the near post or leaving space that they wouldn't normally do.
Yep. Right, that leads me on really well anyway. How do you cope with a number 1, a number 2, a number 3, and the personalities that's... I know sometimes it's very hard, and normally the Goalkeepers Union is so strong anyway that we're so supportive of each other, but it's still behind the scenes, you've got a lot of personalities to deal with and a lot of disappointment almost.
Yeah, it's difficult. When I arrived, we had Fraser Forster, Angus Gunn and Al McCarthy. Yep. Like literally 3 Premier League goalkeepers right there. And it's tough because when you go into an environment, you don't really know what's been said before or promised or those types of things. And when it comes down to it, only one's going to play and one's going to be on the bench and actually one's not even going to be getting dressed. Yeah. So, there's obviously... You have to manage that, and it's not easy. Yeah. And as being the goalkeeper coach as well,
you're like the mediator. You're the man in the middle.
Exactly.
The goalies, we trust you, we respect you, but we also have that understanding where you might work for the club or you might work for the manager. So it's a really tough line to cross, isn't it?
It's difficult. And I remember saying it to all the keepers, like, there's times where, again, it depends on managers. The managers make the decisions and that's it. Some might ask you for an input. It changes manager to manager. And ultimately the manager's decision is final because they're their manager. Whether you agree or disagree, you as a goalkeeper coach have to go along with it. So you can get stuck in between at times. But I think what I've said to the keepers is, regardless of decisions, I'm still going to try and make you a better goalkeeper. Yeah. Regardless whether you're playing or not. And I think it's an easy thing. Well, you would say that. But literally it is. So you have to... I think you have to understand sometimes where they're coming from, have a little bit of empathy. And there was a time where you're chopping and changing and you understand what the keepers are going through. But ultimately, sometimes, and I'd say if, we've made this decision as a coaching staff, there's been times previously where I had no say and there's times where I had a say. And I think what I've learned now is just to be honest with them through good and bad.
That's all a goalkeeper wants. Like, I'll speak about it myself personally. As long as I feel like I can trust you, I'll back it, whatever you say. You know what I mean? If you tell me that, like, this is the gospel truth, I'm not lying to you, this is what's been said, even I was in on that meeting and I heard this is what I think. Like, and then I'm like, that's fine, I've got no issue with you. I want to work hard for you. I want to make the session better for you because I feel like you understand because you've told me the truth. Yeah. And that is, I would say that's 99 goalkeepers out of 100 would be like that.
And, there's other factors that go into it where, it could be contracts and those types of things where the club is saying, no, he needs to play. It could be he needs to be on the bench, right? Yeah. He needs to go on loan. And sometimes it's, as a keeper coach, it's not in your control. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. So it can be difficult at times. And there's times where maybe I think, right, I should have said it the way it is, maybe not sugarcoated it in a way like, oh, keep working hard, but the other one's playing. Yeah. But when you get into the kind of mindset of the keepers as well, I think you can understand them a little bit better. And I'd say to them, like, if you're pissed off, tell me. I'd rather you say than kind of just have a monk on, really.
Yeah, no, of course.
But to be fair to all the keepers that I've worked with, not just in Southampton, in other ones, we've always had really good groups, and at times there's been different types of characters. Some really, really quiet, some not so. Some will just stay quiet if they're not happy. Some will voice it. Yeah. But I think you got to embrace all that because, as I said, everyone's different, and it's just trying to navigate the best for the group. And as I said, individual goalkeepers, okay, well, look, you didn't play yesterday, but we've got some work to do on you.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's look to improve you. So when you do get the opportunity, you haven't wasted it. Yeah. Because I think the worst thing you can do is sack off training, then overnight something's happened and you're not prepared for the next game or the next opportunity.
A massive part of goalkeeping coaching is definitely managing that personalities and knowing how to get the best out of some. Because like you're saying, when you go through moments of disappointment, sometimes it's reflection that you need, and you need a couple of days off and come back in and you feel recharged. And by being honest with each other, you end up understanding what each goalkeeper specifically needs. Some need to just go back on the training pitch and train it out of themselves, don't they? Yeah,
and you get, when you get to know them personally, that's exactly what it is. There's been times where, right, I want to go out, and you're like, from a physical standpoint, sports side, they can't go out, they just... Yep. But I know that he needs to maybe do a little bit of something just to keep him ticking over. There's you're literally like a manager of a small team. Yep. Not just a goalkeeper coach. Everyone just thinks goalkeeper coach just kicking some balls, but ultimately you're trying to manage a group, and then you've got the team to think about and the club and all those types of things as well. So it can be more complex than what people think.
What a save from Mark
and
Howard.
This is the Glove Review on the Yours, Mine, Away podcast.
Right, I want to do a little bit of a talk about gloves and that. It doesn't have to be too in-depth goalkeeper gloves. You've brought in your gloves today that are two toes.
Yeah.
Can you tell the story about how you changed them slightly?
Yeah, so...
how important is a goalie glove for a coach, by the way? Or is it just look the part, play the part?
I've always worn...
Yeah.
I know people on the other podcast said, I don't wear them. For me, it doesn't define you as a coach. It doesn't make you any better or worse. I just prefer to wear them, really. Yeah. So, yeah, I've had two now for, well, the last few years at Swansea. So what's that now? Probably 6-7 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, they made these, which were just plain white.
Yeah.
And I like white gloves.
Yeah. You're a traditionalist. You said about your yellow jersey, long sleeves. Just
white gloves. And then for me, they were too white. There was nothing on them, but just literally plain white. So I think it was one day in the change room after training, I just sat there's a Sharpie pen. So, you know, all these like little grooves in here. I just got a pen, just started doodling. And then I literally went, see the grooves there, outlined it in the black pen. And I was like, actually, that looks all right. So I took a picture, sent to Simon from Tuto, and he's like, yeah, it looks good. So we'll make them for you. Yeah. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So he just made a batch for me. So I started wearing them and then put some pictures online. And then literally, Simon was like, we're getting so many questions, where can I get them from? That they ran them then to make. And
can they roll them out as that model?
Yeah, so they rolled them out. So it's strange now that, like I've seen some keeper, I won't name them, but wearing these in like the Premier League or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, actually doodle.
I'll play the part in that,
to get that. And there's keepers, up and down the leagues now wearing those specific ones. So yeah, it's quite a cool one. But as I said, personally, I like to wear them. But as I said, there's keeper coaches who don't, and it doesn't, for me, it's not an issue.
As a coach then, what's your perspective on gloves, and what do you teach your young goalkeepers? Or is it just about just making sure they're happy? Because half the problem when you're young is you don't get enough gloves. And when it must annoy the life out of a goalie coach, them turning up with gloves in bad condition. Yeah,
too big because their parents say, oh, you'll grow into them. I think for the youngsters it's cost because they cost so much money.
Yep.
I think we're fortunate when you get given gloves, and if there's a little bit of mark, you can
dispose of them.
Yeah, but if you're even a keeper who doesn't get free gloves, you have to make them last. And I think durability and obviously the fit is huge. But I think I said to you earlier, like some of the keepers, 2 pairs a week.
Yeah.
And just a little bit of this, and they'll throw them.
Yeah.
And there'll be times where I'll be like, whoa, no. Sign them, we'll give them to the academy keepers.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So like Christmas time, they get so many. There's a good story with Fabianski when he's at Swansea. So at the Christmas time, we've got like a Q&A. So again, you've got to think that even though they're academy kids, they're still kids who have role models. So I said to Fabs, any of your old gloves, can you just sign them and we'll give them to the academy kids for Christmas? He's like, oh, yeah, no problem. So literally the next day, he goes, Andrew, I've got the gloves in the car. That's quick. I was thinking over like a month or 2 month period, you just keep them in a box. And so he come to my car. So I went to his car, flipped the boot, it goes up. And I looked in his boot, I'm like, 20 pairs of brand new gloves. And I'm like, whoa, Fabs. I said,
old gloves?
I said, old gloves. He said, no, these are the last colorway. So obviously, especially with the big boys, with Adidas, they have to wear the latest colors. So it's like, oh, these are the last colorway. So I'm like, oh, Fabs. I said, honestly, the old ones. So no, take them. So anyway, went into the training ground, and they were flying somewhere for an away game, and we're just in the reception area. And I said, Fabs, aren't you supposed to fly now? He said, oh yeah, the bus is late. Shall I sign all the gloves for you while we're waiting? And I said, no, Fabs. I said, you've done enough. He goes, no. Literally, pair by pair, 40. And his signatures goes on for ages because he writes Fabianski there underneath each one.
Yeah.
40 pairs. And like, he's just a top guy. But then Christmas time, you give them to the academy keepers, and it's like, you know what I mean? The parents are sending pictures where they're, like this, a display. And, sometimes that's why, I'll rescue some gloves from the boys and give them to the academy kids because it means so much to them, doesn't it?
Right, finally, I want to go on to some advice for young GKs that are out there. We have a lot of young listeners and they constantly messaging us, asking for advice and tips and stuff. What do you think is the most important thing fundamentally from a very young age to put in place? It's a difficult question at times, but
I think the love for the position, I think that underpins everything. And as I said, especially with this podcast, when you're getting all the pros on, the access to professional keepers these days, you see the person behind the gloves as well.
Yeah.
And when you speak to them, they all have a love for the position, like literally just want to go out there and train. And you speak to pros and young keepers, some prefer to be in a goalkeeper training session than in with a team.
That I think that's every goalkeeper, by the way.
Especially tactical stuff where you're standing on the edge for half hour and you're not doing too much. So for me, it has to be an enjoyment. And then as you find your level, it's about trying to be as I said earlier, the best goalkeeper you can be at whatever level it takes you. Some end up in the Premier League, some end up playing internationally, but probably 99% don't.
Yeah.
But it's finding that level, finding where you're comfortable at, and just enjoying flying around the goal, making saves. Because whether you're under 7 or in the Premier League, you ultimately just want to make saves and fly around the goal, isn't it?
Yeah,
I don't think
it's just enthusiasm.
It doesn't change, does it? And you see some saves in grassroots where you think basically that's the same as the pros do it, and vice versa. So enjoying the position, taking it is for what it is, and not putting too much pressure on, because even with the grassroots, you get parents on the sidelines. You should have saved that. It's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nonsense sometimes, right? And then finally, I always end on this question now, but I like it. What does the Goalkeepers Union mean to you?
I think the respect that you're all on the same, you're in the same group on a journey which can be slightly different, and helping each other along the journey. I think, as I said earlier, there's times where you got to play at the start of your career or the end, and just helping each other become better versions of themselves, really.
Yeah. No, right. I can't thank you enough for coming on anyway, Andrew Sparks. It's been an amazing...
Been a pleasure.
It's been really insightful, loads of educational bits in there, and I think full credit to you as well for the journey that you went on to get to where you've, obviously being at Southampton, but to go around the world and make opportunities for yourself is it's very inspiring for a lot of people. Yeah,
and as I said, that's just my journey. If you look at all the other keeper coaches, they've got their own journeys as well. So, I've just been fortunate to enjoy what I've been doing, and can continue doing what I love doing.
Yeah, well, I hope you get back in a job soon too.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks.
All right, guys. This has been the Yours, Mine, Away podcast. Andrew Sparks, what a guest. Thank you very much, mate.
Thank you. Cheers.
Make sure you go like and subscribe. Give us a 5-star rating. Check out our YouTube channel too, guys. Take care. Bye.
What a save from Mark Howard.